Congratulations, Little Cup. Girafarig has finally been banned, with an astonishing 2 votes to not ban it. We don't have to deal with this menace anymore. It's finally gone. So what's in it for this new metagame of ours? What glorious new strategies will we think of? What innovations will be present? Oh, yeah, that's right. We still have to top... Hot Topic's still around. Great. So for context, I made a previous video where I talked about how Gothita was bad because Girafarig wasn't around. So why ever use the Psychic type that's bad, comparatively, compared to the absolute monster that was Girafarig? And if you're wondering why you grown it, it's like, it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that bad. I mean, look at these base stats. It's manageable. It's manageable, right? In Sword and Shield, this is the Sword and Shield viability rankings metagame session for Generation 8. They banned it because they had to ban it in Generation 7 because it's so broken. Oh my lord. It's not balanced. Whereas with Girafarig, it was the combination of the ability, moveset, and stat pool. The reason why Gothita is broken is because it's got the ability Shadow Tag. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. It's just way too powerful because you can just make it so that your opponent can't switch. And then you can do some really, really degenerate stuff. That means that you win the game with borderline no skill. So before I get into the exact reasoning why, I'd very much appreciate it if you could like, share, and subscribe. Ring the notification bell, do whatever the YouTube algorithm stuff. I want to get monetized so that this isn't just a side hobby and I can do this full time. Thank you very much. Alright. Why is Hot Topic giving me a migraine? Their fashion sense. Alright, why else? So, simple answer is, it's got 2 good stats, and both of them really annoying to deal with. You can do Choice Scarf, and then you can do some trick stuff with it. Excuse me. Oh crap, I'm choking because of how bad Hot Topic is for my immune system. So we have Trick here, which switches your allied item with the targets, which means that you can trick your opponent to Choice Scarf, which means that they can only select the first move they execute, which can be really annoying to deal with. Then you also have Psychic and Thunderbolt as good coverage options, and then you can do Terror Blast Fighting, so that way you can break over stuff that would normally be able to deal with you. Hooray! You get up to 15 speed with a positive nature, meaning that you can sometimes trap other Scarfers that are stuck into things that they would much rather not be, and they can't get out, which is fun. But also, you're just fast enough that you can outspeed some really annoying targets, like Brawler, like Pawniard, and we'll get into other stuff that you want to trap later, but those are like, you can trap a good amount of stuff because you have the Choice Scarf on. They can't switch, they get obliterated. But then also, you can do this set. This set! It's Calm Mind, Rest, Psychic, and Terror Blast. I hate this. I hate this so much. So what it does is that you have Calm Mind to keep yourself really bulky. You have Eviolite, which boosts your defense and special defense by 1.5 times, meaning that you're already really bulky. You boost it even further with Calm Mind. You keep yourself healthy with Rest, which also gets rid of status, so you can't wear it down passively. And then you sweep your opponent with Psychic and Terror Blast Fighting. And finally, they can't switch out the entire time because of Shadow Tag. And also because of your really bulky stat line of 45 HP, 50 defense, and 65 special defense. It's not, like, absurd by any stretch of the imagination, but you also can just put a whole bunch of EVs into it and it's all day okay. But you can just take a whole bunch of hits, boost up to +6 special attack, +6 special defense, which for context is a quadrupling of your stats. Quadrupling. And then it can really easily sweep your team. And then you may be thinking, oh, you know, it's always going to be a Psychic type. I can just break over it with, like, a Flying type move or something. Or a Dark type move. Oh my god, Hot Topic's rotting my brain. Get out of my head. You can just use, like, a Dark type or a Bug type move. Well, it can just do Terror type fighting, and it's all like, okay. It's all fine. The other way, like, oh, well, you know, Shadow Tag's really good, but why not just use Arena Trap Diglett? It's like the exact same thing, except that instead of being that, if we look at Shadow Tag, you can switch out only when you have the ability or if you're a Ghost type. So why not just use Arena Trap instead, because it's the exact same thing, except if they're airborne or a Ghost type. The reason is that this is significantly more balanced Mon, as well as a significantly more balanced ability, because like, Arena Trap, it doesn't just not trap Ghosts, it also doesn't trap Flying types, Mons with Levitate, So there's a lot more Mons overall that don't get trapped. And as such, it's a lot more fair because, like, oh, well, then I can go into, like, a flying type, which my Pokemon want to do naturally anyway because of how their Terra types are with their normal types. So that's all A-okay, so I can just run that. It's all good. And then I'm not arena trapped, and then I have more flexible counterplay. But with Shadow Tag, you have to have Terra type Ghost if you want to be able to escape it. And that's really limiting when it comes to counterplay because Pokemon that really don't want to have to run Terra type Ghost kind of have to in order to not just get 6-0'd by this nonsense. So, but Diglett's still really good, but also if you look at the stat line, it's got 10 HP, 25 defense, and 45 special defense. It's really frail, and even if you throw on an Eviolite, it's still not going to be stupidly bulky. So the issue there is, well, Gothita can really comfortably switch into some attacks just because it can. It's bulky enough to do so, at which point your opponent just sort of dies, and they can't do much about it. So, whereas with Diglett, if it wants to boost up, it got boosting moves. It's got Swords Dance. It got Swords Dance this generation, which I'm expecting somebody to figure out a cracked set where this just becomes stupid broken. But also with that being said, it's not as broken because it doesn't boost your defenses, so that way you just become this unkillable monster. But it's really hard for Diglett to find a setup opportunity because of how frail it is. Whereas Gothita can just be like, any passive Pokemon will do, I'll just come in on that, and then they can rest off any passive damage. It's fine. And although, like, Diglett does have a really good support move pool, like, a lot of options, Earthquake, Substitute, Rock Blast. You like Rock Blast over Stone Edge because then you break through Focus Sash users. But then you can also run Stealth Rock, Final Gambit to Nene on your opponent. It's always fun to do that. But you still have, like, a lot of options of different stuff that you want to do, while not being absurdly broken, of being like, oh yeah, I just 6-0 some teams. It's whatever. And then you may be thinking, well, what about the other Psychic types in the tier? Like Gothita's got a kind of middling stat line. What about the other ones? So, the most notable one that I can think of otherwise is Hatena, because of the ability Magic Bounce, which means that you block certain status moves and bounce them back, which includes entry hazards such as Toxic Spikes, Spikes, and Stealth Rocks, in addition to other status moves like Thunder Wave, Will-O-Wisp. It can be really useful to have Magic Bounce on a Pokemon. The issue is that your stat line's pretty dog. It's very bad. 42 HP, 45 defense, 53 special defense. It's nothing special, especially when, like, oh, well, Gothita's bulkier on baseline as well as faster. So why ever use this Magic Bounce Pokemon anyway? It's not going to be taking a whole bunch of hits. It's just going to die, and it's not very good. Next up, Spoink. Because it's actually got 70 special attack, 60 speed. That's pretty good, but the issue is that you're not fast enough. Like, you really want to have some more speed. For example, Crabrawler, which is perhaps the best fighting... I'll say the best fighting type. It's got competition with Mankey, but I'll just say it's the best because of its flexibility and its move pool and its sets. It gets up to 17 speed at level 5, and Spoink can't deal with that, and it's got a really bad defense stat. So it can't switch in versus Crabrawler and be able to beat it. It's not really a good time. It doesn't have a really good ability. It's got Thick Fat, Own Tempo, and Gluttony. All of those are pretty bad. Like, the best you're getting is Thick Fat, and even then, a lot of Fire and Ice type moves aren't really being thrown around all that much. So, good luck trying to get some utility out of Spoink. Whereas, well, why just use any of those when you have the literal best ability, broken ability, Shadow Tag, where you can just force your opponent into bad matchups, have them lose advantage, and then that's it. So, get nated, nerd. But then what exactly can you trap with Gothita? And there's actually quite a few. As I mentioned before, Crabrawler. To go into it a little bit more in depth, it has a lot of coverage moves, and then that's one of its big selling points. It's got Drain Punch if you want to run Crab Hammer, you can. You got Earthquake if you want to run that. Gunk Shot if you're worried about fairies. There aren't many fairies in this meta, so you don't have to worry about it. But it's still nice to know, like, oh, well, if I really am worried about that sort of thing, or if there's, like, a really annoying grass type that I want to deal with, well, I can run Gunk Shot. It's all okay. You have Zen Headbutt for hitting ghosts, other fightings, and poisons, which is super nice. Then you have Rock Slide if you want to beat over Larvesta or flying types. Like, you have a lot of different coverage options when it comes to Crabrawler. It's really nice. And it's got a good stat line, 82 attack, 57 defense, 47 special defense. It's decently bulky. It's really nice. And you get up to 17 speed. It's all really positive traits, and it's a really good Pokemon. If we go to viability rankings, this is before it's been updated to be acclimated with Ghastly as S rank. It's just still the same thing, and don't blame Council for that. It's just these things take time. You have to think about all of the entirety of the new meta, play a few games, and then be able to adjust accordingly. But even then, it was A- rank. It's really good, and being able to trap that is really nice. And it has to run something like well, it has to run Terra-type Ghost. I can't read sometimes. It has to run Terra-type Ghost in order to be able to escape the trapping, which is really bad because then your entire game plan versus something like a Poniard, which you're really good against, is now out the window. So you don't really want to run Terra-type Ghost, so it can be really easily trapped as a result. And speaking of Poniard, you can trap it really reliably because it's a Dark Steel type and it has a quadruple fighting weakness. Although it does like running Terra-type Ghost, it may not always want to use the Terra-type immediately, which can be really annoying. But it's still got a lot of good options, and it's really good to remove. If we go to the viability rankings again, it's A+. I'm not expecting this to drop at all, because it requires Gothita 2 Terra in order to remove this. And you also have a good matchup versus Ghastly, but you can still remove it with either of Ghastly or Gothita if they Terra fighting. But you still have stuff like Ironhead, you have Brickbreaker, Low Sleep as fighting coverage, whether you want to be better versus screens or not have setup sweepers set up on you. You have Sucker Punch as really good priority. If you want to, you can also run Night Slash, so that way you can attack into your opponent. You can also run a Scarf set, so that way you can break through some things. And if you want to run your standard set, you also have Stealth Rocks, which are really important for punishing switch-ins. It's got a lot of flexibility, as well as a really good stat line. 85 attack, it's bonkers good. 70 defense means that you're really naturally physically bulky, and you've got good enough speed that you can deal with a lot of slower targets, as well as come in and threaten something. Because, like, oh, well, I have a Psychic type, I have a Ghost type that wants to be able to use its stabs, well, Poniard says no. It's really good. Next up, we have this chemist-pharmacist thing. It reminds me of... Is that a monk? Get out of my head! Get out of my head! Alright, so... We got Fungus here. And unless it's specifically running Clear Smog, then it gets trapped. You can also run Terra-type Ghost if you want to. But also, that's really bad, because it doesn't like taking a whole bunch of attacks from Poniard. So that's really annoying. But otherwise, it gets trapped really reliably. And if there's no Terra in the metagame, which is in like Little Cup Winter League, where you have a whole bunch of different, like we have Terra Blast Band, Terra Band, 1 Terra per team, Terra Preview, like you have a whole bunch of different formats here. Having no Terra Ghost is really bad. So you have to run Clear Smog on these bulky poisons if you want to be able to even escape trapping. Next up, Marion E. In the recommended set, it says to run Haze, but also Toxic Spikes are ridiculously good for being able to wear down stuff like Crabrawler, like Mudbray, stuff without recovery. Really hate seeing it, and although people do like running grounded poisons, there's also stuff like Shellos, which also gets trapped, by the way. It can't escape unless you're running Clear Smog, and you have to give up one of your coverage options for it, which is really bad. But being able to poison stuff like Shellos or other non-poison types is really good utility, and you have to choose between this really good utility and a whole bunch of other matchups, or running this, where it's just good in like 2. So there's that. And I really hate seeing Calmine Gothita. Hooray! Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Glimmet here. You think you'd be really good against it because of how high its special attack is. No. You sweet summer child. No. It just dies anyway, because you're thinking, oh, well, you know, it's got, you know, poison sludge bomb, it's got a whole bunch of attack. Well, then Gothita just comes in on a free switch when Glimmet kills something because it's got such high special attack, and then it just sets up and uses rest. And you can't break over it because you're a special attacker. If you want to, you can get up all of your hazards, you can get up Stealth Rock, you can get up all your spikes, and that works too, but it's trapping Thotter. You can't escape it. Yay! And then also just Shellos. I really like where this is going, honestly. It's got a really good solid place in the metagame because Storm Drain just means you don't have to deal with the absolute abhorrence that is Rain. It's not a bad playstyle, by the way. It's just you don't want to have to, like, deal with it. But you've got Stealth Rock Recover, and then you got some good coverage moves, so. You do get Clear Smog. You get Clear Smog, it's right here. But the issue is that you have to give up either of Ice Beam or Earth Power, and both of those are really bad to lose, because Ice Beam, that'll hit the grass types like Fungus, like Toadstool, and that's really important. But then Earth Power also deals with stuff like Pawniard, the poisons such as Mariani and Glimmet. So it's like, well, what do I want to do? Well, I can also run Terra-type Ghost, and then you have a much worse matchup versus all the electric types because you need to make sure not to die to Gothita. So there's that. What's actually gonna like be able to counter you, kind of. Nimble, I'm expecting this to drop. It's not great in current metagame because there's a lot of resist running around, but also, like, well, you can revenge kill it with first impression and it's still gonna do a whole bunch of damage, and you can also just U-turn out of a trapping situation, so you don't have to worry about it. Also, Zorua, I think it actually gets much better now that Girafarig is gone, because it's got such a good utility move pool and can do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but knock off to remove Eviolite and then also U-turn into something else, so that way your opponent thinks like, oh, well, you know, it's just gonna be like this really easy thing that I can trap, it's whatever. No, I actually knock off U-turn and get out of there, and then you're stuck without a Gothita, so LMAO, get Nene nerd. But then you can also run a Triscarf set, and if you're wondering, well, why is this spread like this? Terra Blast, you just Terra Fighting and it becomes a physical move. That's because instead of this fourth slot, you can run Extra Sensory, and that's stupidly good utility because, as I mentioned before, Crabrawler is a big threat, so being able to hit that with a Zorua without having to Terra type first, perfect. Perfect stuff. Oh my lord. It's so good. You can also run something like Terra type Fighting, or Fighting or Fairy, both of those work. But being able to have this flexibility and having stab knockoffs always nice, especially because you can just ruin Gothita and it can't do anything about it, so get Nene. All you can eat buffet Mudbray over here, it's a literal champion. I'm not even joking about this. It's a champion. Like, look at this. If count. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Oh, I was getting really concerned there. Oh. But if we just assume, like, you want to run 36 attack, special attack, and then run timid. If you're running the Eviolite set, because you care more about your bulk than your attacking stats. But even at +6, you just take that because you're an absolute champion. Thank you, Mudbray, for being consistently excellent. It's pretty crazy. And then even if this is at, like, maximum special attack, you can always Terra type Steel if you need to. And that'll be able to deal with it pretty nicely. So there's that. Finally, only you can prevent Forest Friars. It's got Thunder Wave, and that's the only real reason why I'm putting it here, is just because, like, oh, well, if it's statused even after the rest, it's going to have a really hard time doing things. Gearling likes running Terra-type Ghost naturally, and then you can also headbutt it down so that way you can't set up. So it's a really good switch into it, especially because it's got enough recovery to do some stuff. It's got Synthesis to keep itself healthy. It's pretty cool. And you think, oh, well, this is all just like theoretical stuff. It'll never happen in the tournament game. Well, here's it happening in a tournament game. It's really terrible because, well, I'm gonna skip all past this. This is actually just cool tech from some JCBC here. Just like, oh yeah, I'm running Scarf Houndor, so that way I don't get trapped, which is really nice. And also has a really good matchup versus the entire team. Pretty cool. But also like, oh, well, this is a really big advantage. How is it gonna screw up? The answer is JCBC doesn't screw up, and before Gothita comes in, like, this is pretty cleanly in JCBC's favor. Like, pretty obviously, like, oh look, you're up literally 5-3, and one of them is basically dead weight because of stealth rocks. Like, there is no way that JCBC is gonna lose this game, right? I mean, that'd be so terrible if it did. And they're like, oh, we'll stitch out to Stunky. He's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And then you do like this really annoying Crit Me Not set, and then Gothita comes back in and is like, what's it gonna even do? It's gonna trick you. That's that okay. What's it gonna do afterwards? Because oh no. I'm gonna my aneurysm, I can feel it in my forehead. It can just do that if it wants to. Oh my lord. For the love of all that's holy, I want this thing banned because you can very clearly tell, like, oh, JCBC was winning this entire match. And then Gothita comes in on, like, one turn and just be like, oh, oops, I lost the game because I wasn't expecting a Scarf Gothita to also have Calm Mind and Trick on its set, and now I'm just gonna lose this entire game as a result. Because if I go hyper fast here, and then it's like, oh look, it gets up to maximum stats, and then afterwards, wait. Alright, also heads up play from JCBC here. Let me go back to that for a second. Because I didn't even realize it was Destiny, but I thought this just... That's stupidly heads up. Yeah, but then you just have to kill it anyway. Yeah, and then KSG wins because of the opportunity. Just because... Oh, whoops. I missed. And now I lose the game. And the only reason that opportunity was afforded was because Gothita is broken. Oh, no, Ice Punch is more damage there. I was like, why didn't you send Headbutt? It's a poison type. Like, no, you use Ice Punch. This Pokemon gives me an aneurysm every single time I think about how it could be used. Oh, Lord. I'm hoping it gets quick banned, but also this is like the one result where I did something, so we'll have to see. As for me, I think I'm gonna go take some ibuprofen and lay down because this is giving me an aneurysm. If you liked the video, please like, share, subscribe, comment down below what you want to see next. I'm gonna be doing these about 2 a week. Hot Topic is just... Oh. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.